Hi everyone, welcome back. So now that we have our building blocks set up, we know how to do inheritance, we know how to write Java programs. So we might now start writing Java programs with, let's say, 10 classes or something like that. So in that case, it's very important to document our project because later if I make a change in one class and then I the program breaks down, the reason could be that some other class was calling a method from the class that I changed and it was expecting an output in a certain format. But since I changed one class, the output from a method in that class is different now, so everything breaks down. So in that case, if you have a documentation, we can easily check what class depends on the class that I'm going to change, and I can check all my dependencies. So the documentation should clearly show the relationship between classes. So one very effective way of documenting object-oriented programs is something uh, called a UML diagram, and UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. And the language has its own rules, and we must follow them when we make class diagrams. So uh, in UML, a class is shown something like this, and the first section contains, there are multiple sections. The first section contains the class name. The second section contains the attributes or the fields. That's the second section. The third section contains the methods, and the fourth section is optional and it contains the responsibilities of that class. So this one right here is optional, so I'm just going to mark this in yellow. This is optional. And uh, while making attributes and methods, again there are a few rules. We must use certain symbols for the access specifiers. So plus stands for public, so plus is for public. um, a minus is for private, and a pound symbol is for protected. And another thing that we need to remember is also for a package we use uh, this is the last one for the package. And another thing that we need to remember is that if our attribute or method is static, we underline it. So that's another rule we must follow, which is underline static attributes or methods. That's another rule, so that so this UML diagram, the way this class represented can tell us everything about what the class needs to do. And we also we should know what kind of fields are static, what kind of methods are static, what class inherits from where. So UML diagram shows that as well. I'll show you that in a while. And so yes, also another thing that I want to mention is that if the class name is in italics, that means an abstract class. Now what an abstract class is, we look in a few videos later, I guess. But just remember that italics, abstract class, equals italics. So this is another rule that we need to remember. And the next thing that UML diagrams show us are relationships between classes. So relationships between classes. So there are different kinds of relationships between classes. So I'm going to look at a few right now, and we'll look at others later as we come across them. I'll explain the relationship itself and how it's represented in a UML diagram. Right now, let's look at some relationships that we have already seen. So let's say I have a class vehicle. I have vehicle class here, and I've got another class, and sorry about that, I've got another class which is car. Now this class needs to inherit from this class, so we use an arrow with a triangle here. So that's the thing we use for inheritance. I'm just going to write this down quickly. Inheritance is an arrow with a triangle here, and this is the parent class. Here will be your parent class. And I just want to point out something to you right here, that inheritance is also sometimes called uh, a generalization or a specialization. So, in case you come across any of these terms, it just refers to inheritance. That's because as we go down, it's a specialization from a vehicle to a car, and as we go up from a car to a vehicle, it's a generalization. So, these terms are also sometimes used for inheritance. And I could also, of course, have something like a bicycle class here, bicycle class here, and this again inherits from the vehicle class. And as far as the attributes are concerned, we use a forward slash to show that they are derived attributes. So let's say my vehicle class had some position and speed. When I need to write those attributes here, I would do something like this. I would say um, let's just keep it public. Position and colon int, and I need to add right after this plus, I need to add a forward slash. So this is how I show, this forward slash is how I show that it's derived from the vehicle class. And as you saw here, the type I'm mentioning is preceded by a colon. So it's field name followed by a colon followed by the type, and that's the convention that we are going to follow, and that's the UML rule. And we're also going to look at hands-on creating UML diagrams using a software called Star UML. That'll be the next video. But another thing that I want to point out is something called a dependency. So let's say I have a class right here which calls a method of this class. So this is my C1, this is my C2, and C1 calls some method of class C2. So C1 is actually dependent on C2 in some way. So we show this by a dotted arrow. This shows dependency. This means that C1 is dependent on C2. And there are other kinds of relations as well. We'll look at them in a few videos. And uh, before that, I just like you to take a look at the Star UML, and we'll take it on from there. See you.